Shalom, shalom, shalom everybody. This is Melchizedek ban Shal Yahuwah Elohim. Hope you guys are having a shalom day. I go by the appellation of Melchizedek once again, Yis-RoyAl. You can contact me at God Lives in Our Heart at hotmail.com if you're interested in getting in touch with me. Do understand that I am a very busy man, that I'm not able to always attend to your needs as quick as you may want, because I'm overwhelmed, the people are overwhelmed, and we're doing our best to bring some light in everybody's life, and that's not easy because the world is plundered in darkness. So please understand that some things will take some time. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you with certain secrets about the serial number and social security number, the number on the back and the number on the front. It's not necessarily secret, but not much people's talking about it, so I call it secret because it's been extinguished. No one's really talking much about it. The security trust fund and things like that. This is not legal or tax advice. I do not know everything about this particular subject. I'm still studying it more, so I do not want you to feel like I know everything about this particular subject. I do not. On it for the record, I've took some notes based on things that I've read and skimmed through pertaining to the subject that I found very interesting that you may want to understand. I understand it for myself on my level, but I cannot give any solid hints to anything yet fully. So in this video, we will be learning about the comparison of $1 to the security, the social security card, and the numbers on the back and the numbers on the dollar bill. So this should ring a bell and shine more light on promissory notes, bonded promissory notes. So right now we're in the 25th day of the 6th month right here, called Elul, according to the Hebrew calendar, backed by the sun, star, and moon. And according to the pagan time, it's 9/11, 6:57 p.m. 2015, 9/11, September 11th. So let's go ahead and begin our video. Get your notepad and pen ready and everything. This is a picture of one of the Treasury's notes, bonded promissory notes. And we're going to be using this template to figure out how to use the number on the back exactly. The number on the back is actually a serial number, and the account number, serial number, sequence number, and sequential numbers. The letter on the back is a prefix letter, and it connects to one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks. So if you think about it, if this is supposed to be a routing number, a ABA, American Banking Association routing number, which connects you to the bank, the bank name will be right here, bank address will go right here based on the routing number. The account number goes next. So if the letter on the back of the social is the routing number, the number right next to it the serial number next to it must be the account number. And they said it's an 8-digit number. I found similarities in the dollar and in the social security card on the back, like when dealing with like the numbers in the letter in the bank. They usually say it's the serial number on the dollar or the money, the currency, the paper money, is usually 8 numbers. So if you look at the numbers on the back of your social, it's 8 numbers. So usually some people say turn the F to 0, or you can actually leave F. You can actually just put the number without the 0, and that would be your account number. So the letter on the back is the routing, and the number on the back is the account number, but they call it a serial number. The account that identifies you is the number on the front. So that would potentially be this SSN account number. And this will be its Federal Reserve routing number, and then the serial number will go right here, you see. But I'll show you in a minute what I'm talking about. The ACH is only for wire transfer. I've made a video on the ACH, the automated clearinghouse. So these are like EFT, electronic funds transfer, promissory notes. And they're going to tell you there's no money really in the accounts. It's all book entry. It's all credit. It's typed into the computer, drawn out based on IOUs. And the credit is technically the numbers and the name, numerically and alphabetically. That is the consideration, with the authorization from the person assumed to be the person. The natural person, not as in person in their tense, but natural person as in nature, a man or woman that is purported to be that person, which is a legal fiction. So your signature, your endorsement, the real man credits the fiction. By the way, your account is a creditor, your fiction is a creditor. So we're going to learn a lot about like the treasury bonds. You see they got all these things. The owner would be you. There's a certain series on the notes, certain bonds. There's a date is issued like a bond, printed date. This is the serial number right here. This is the account number, and this is the routing number. The co-owner, which is not a oh yeah, this says or, but you would put your bank somewhere around here, and then the address of your bank somewhere there. Your address would go on the top like it would right here. Your address, paid to the order of whoever, your bank's address and name and all that go right here. Then the routing number, then the SSN account number. Make sure you put SSN account, and then put the serial number at the end, date it and all that stuff, and you just created a IOU, a promissory note. So let me see, and this is the man that caused all this to happen, Woodrow Wilson, the same one that pretty much plundered the whole country into debt. This is the pyramid right here. This is the man that they use, the face, the puppet that they use. I wouldn't be surprised if this man right here is his boss. They used him and stuff to bring in the whole credit system and emit bills of credit, and to create money out of thin air as banks, the Federal Reserve banks, without any liability whatsoever, which means they're sovereign, above the law. The laws do not apply to, it does not apply to them, and you gotta understand it doesn't. It doesn't apply to you too, but them, they got all types of immunity in this game they created. Your chip exists in this game, and the game is the game board, like playing chess. You're not the chip, you're the person who's controlling the chip and moving the chip. You don't own the game, you didn't create the game, you just know how to play it. A manual. So you gotta know how to dig through all this junk that they created to find some remedy. So alright, let's begin with that serial number now. That's actually, let's see if we can find a picture like right here. It's a little bit tiny, but you see the letter on the dollar? That connects to one of the banks, and it has the name of the bank around it. In that black circle, the name of the bank's there. And if you see on the back of the social, there's an account number too. Pardon the visual, and I don't know if you guys are using like lower bandwidth, whatever they call that, but this letter right here is just like that. And you see these numbers right here, you know a dollar, you can look at one yourself, that these numbers are the serial number. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they have other numbers, other letters. All these letters mean something. So this is like the number on the back of your social, a letter, a serial number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You see? And that's money. This is what you call money, right? That's money. This is money. You're a creditor, you're a bank. Alright, hold on, this is about that's about the stars and all that stuff. Alright, that's the A for V. I had success with that. You can check that out too in the A for V success video. UCC. Alright, you see right here it says Social Security account number on the front. It's an account number. And they tell you to keep a record of this number because it's valuable, it's useful, you're gonna need it. And it said it shows the account number used. keep record of your Social Security benefit, your funds. So it says mention the number in all letters regarding your account. Wow, you see, regarding your account, they call this an account number. So this will be an identification number, not an account number as in a checking account. That's for identification. That's why you call that an SSN account. And you call the other number a serial number. It is the real true account number. You technically don't need to put your social on the stuff. You can just use the number on the back strictly. This is for identification only. See, on this right here also says account number. And here goes another type of treasury bond, treasury savings bond, drawn off of a security trust fund, Social Security trust fund, slush fund, hedge fund. There goes the routing number, and there goes the account number. This got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This got 11 spaces. Some of them do. You can add extra zeros and all that stuff. But they got different type of account numbers, identifiers. So that's the United States Savings Bond. Something as simple as this, signature on the front and the endorsement on the back. You just created a promissory note, IOU check. So now with that understanding, let's go ahead and read this. So serial numbers are used to identify specific paper bonds. So serial numbers are used to identify, to track, to hunt down, to pinpoint, to charge to specific paper bonds like promissory notes, IOUs. In case they are lost or destroyed, that's what it says on the back of your Social Security card. In case it is lost or destroyed. Why? Because you need it to discharge a debt. So since this can't happen with electronic bonds, so these are bonds, bonded promissory notes, there's no need for a serial number. So to cover the amounts the government spends above what it takes in through taxes, so it takes it through taxes, it takes in through taxes, and to cover the amounts that they shall spend, the Treasury borrows the money. Who do they borrow it from? The United States Faith and Credit, which is your hard work, labor, and toil in your account. It's trust fund, tax fund. So savings bonds are one of the ways the Treasury borrows money. They call it a savings bond. Like a savings account. And one, you got funds saved into it for retirement. So although there's no account, it's all digital. So although savings bonds are very minor compared to the two largest sources of borrowed funds, so there are two largest sources of borrowed funds, which is marketable treasury securities, which is marketable treasury notes, and non-marketable treasury securities. Non-marketable treasury securities, which is called the Social Security Trust Fund, because it get paid on demand. It's a demand deposit account, like an escrow account. Money come in, money go out. Nothing's being held. So marketable treasury securities and the Social Security Trust Fund, which is a non-marketable treasury security, but it's still a treasury security, which is a note, IOU. So either way, they're using IOUs to withdraw the fund. Either they're marketing it on the market to investors to get the fund, or they're tapping into the Social Security Trust Fund where they do not need to market it. They can just tap into it right there and then. So when you redeem a savings bond, so you can redeem a note, which means cash it, the money comes from the same treasury fund. So it comes from your same security trust, your trust fund, which, as we've seen, are a mix of tax receipts and borrowing. It could be IRS forms too, and IOU notes, promise to pay notes. So there's no reserve fund. There's no real true reserve fund. It's all credit. Funds come through the main bank in the form of a treasury check. So just as you don't have a reserve fund to pay back a car loan or a home mortgage, if you had the money, the gold and silver, for a reserve fund, which is true money reserved in an account, a vault, a chamber, you wouldn't need to borrow to begin with, because you just go into the vault. But people didn't know the power of a promissory note, so they treated the trust fund as a vault account. It's not a checkings account or a vault account. It's a draw IOU off account. So if it was a vault account, you wouldn't need to borrow to begin with, and neither would the government. So everyone is borrowing off the faith and credit of one another. 7:11 p.m. Hallelujah Huanu. So in most states, most bank savings and loans are similar institutions will cash or similar institutions will cash savings bonds for you. So they will cash these savings bonds and notes for you. The process is similar to cashing a check. But you might want to call ahead, as some financial institutions no longer offer this converting service, converting the funds or currency or the money from one form to another, in and out, transformers. So you will be required to provide identification, like the Social Security account ID, that matches your name on the savings bond. You will be asked to sign the back of each bond. Sign the back of each bond like an endorsement. And the financial institution will certify your signature, just like cashing a check. You go with ID, and then you sign the back, and that's it. They book entry. Don't you see them go on the computer, and once they type in the right stuff, the book entry, the cash machine pops out, it opens. Same concept. These things, these similarities between that Social Security numbers and serial number and letter with the account number on the front and the dollar is you're gonna find a great symbolic connection between the two, or them all. Paper money. So if you can't find a bank that will handle a savings bond, purchase or redemption transaction for you, here's what to do. So purchasing savings bonds, for purchases, the best option is to open an account at the Treasury Direct. However, you can also buy paper money or paper savings bonds, directly from the Federal Reserve. So you can get this directly for them, or use the Treasury Direct account to cash in your money, direct deposit. But you need a multi-part form that can't be downloaded. So click here to order paper copies of the savings bond purchase forms. Enter how many forms you need, then scroll down to the bottom of the page. Enter your name and address and click the order button. So when the forms arrive, fill them out. Write a check to the Federal Reserve for the amount of your investment. So write a money order or a promissory note, a bond and promissory note for the amount of your investment, how much you want to put in your account, a deposit, to be held, converted, monetized, securitized, and mail the forms and your check to the Federal Reserve Bank that handles the savings bonds in your part of the country, address shown below. So redeeming savings bonds, for redemptions, You don't need a form, but you need to have your signature certified on the back of the savings bonds you want to redeem by your local bank. So they have to certify it on the back. So if the bank is reluctant, make it clear that you plan to send the bonds to the Federal Reserve yourself, that you are not requesting that the bank redeem the bonds, that the redemption is impossible without a local bank certifying your signature. So you're not trying to deposit there, you just need it to be certified and that you're sending it to the Federal Reserve. And you see right here, before it said send the check, now it says send the bond to the Federal Reserve yourself, that you are not requesting that the bank redeem the bonds. That redemption is impossible without a local bank certifying your signature. You hear that? So since, like a affidavit, a jurat. So since the bank's certification is guaranteeing that you are who you say you are, expect the bank to ask for one or more pieces of identification that match your name on the bond. If you are the beneficiary, you will also have to provide the death certificate of the owner, because you can benefit off of people's deaths, especially those life insurance. So if there are more than just a few bonds, rather than certifying each one, it's easier to list all the bonds on Public Debt Form 1522 and have the bank certify your signature on the form. Certify, verify, validate your signature on the form, your endorsement, rather than on each and every bond. That works too. So you can do an affidavit of certification and list the bonds on it. So send your paperwork to the Federal Reserve Bank that serves your part of the country. So it's supposed to go to the Federal Reserve Bank, FRB, and one of those banks connected with that routing number is in charge. So in the West, Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, this address, street address for UPS and etc. and or FedEx, Savings Bonds Department. So you can send that there. So in the East, it will be sent to the Federal Reserve Bank Pittsburgh branch, street address or UPS FedEx here. So can savings bonds be seized as an asset in a civil suit? If I have a portfolio, an account number, like a PCN number, they call also the POPI folio number, the property appraisals something number. So if I have a portfolio, an account of mutual fund account or portfolio containing several $1,000s in savings bonds, and a judgment is found against me in a court of law during a civil suit, can they come after my savings bonds? Tom's response: according to the lawyers at the Treasury, each series of bonds has its own regulations. But the general rule for paper bonds is that the Treasury will redeem a savings bond, a paper's bond, after a judgment against the owner or co-owner. So, however, the court would have to levy against that savings bonds. So they would have to put a lien on it, a claim on that bond, seize them, and send them to the Treasury with the appropriate documentation, your proof of claim. So the Treasury won't reissue the bonds, but will redeem them to the extent of the money judgment. So they will redeem them, which means cash them, not sell them. So they're not marketable, and like from the Security Trust Fund. Needs to send a statement over his or her signature stating that he or she is a United States citizen and providing his or her social security number. So non-citizens need to complete IRS Form W-8 instructions. So signature certification completed in a foreign country require a seal but can be done by any of the following: any United States diplomatic or consular representative, the manager or other official of a foreign branch of a bank or trust company incorporated in the U.S., a notary or other official authorized, a commissioner, administrator of oath, to administer oaths or asseverations. However, in this case, the official character and jurisdiction of this individual should be certified by the seal of a United States diplomatic or consular officer. So after having your signature certified on the back of your bonds, so it's a certification of signature on bond, mail the bonds, the tax documentation, so you do gotta do tax forms, and the mailing for your redemption check to these addresses. Bureau of the Public Debt, I will look into that more though. You will receive a United States dollar check from the Treasury that you can deposit at your bank, one form of currency to another. So I believe the same process works with other forms of notes and bonds. So you have to open a separate Treasury Direct account for living trust registrations. You can hold electronic savings bonds, converted paper savings bonds, and other Treasury securities such as bills, notes, and tips in the account. So you can hold electronic saving bonds, converted paper savings bonds, and other Treasury securities such as bills of exchange, promissory notes, bonds, money orders, and tips in the account, in the portfolio account. So these are a couple of websites that we're gonna go through later on. Yeah, there's gonna be a couple parts to this video because I want to make sure I cover everything. So before I continue on with that, let me put these links with the other links. Boom. So this statement appeared in each trust fund report from 1955 to 1959. This statement appeared in each trust fund report. So it was an effort to provide some helpful conceptual background in understanding the role of the trust funds in government finance. Government finance, this is how they finance themselves. Title 31, the same place they put H.R. 192 now, and 48 Stat 112 and Public Law 73-10. So reality of the trust fund, the reality of it. Public discussion of the investment aspects of the old age and survivors insurance program. That's what they called it, an insurance number, exemption number. Sometimes reveals a serious misunderstanding of the nature and significance of the trust fund operations. So it's a disguise, it's a mask. They call it the old age and survivors insurance program, but it's not really for anyone old age. It's your account they're messing with, like any old bank. Adapt. So the board of trustees, the board of fiduciaries and clerks of our grand big bank account with the Treasury, with a library with our name in it and account number, another book entry. So the board of trustees believes that it has a responsibility to correct any misapprehensions among persons who look to the old age and survivors insurance program for basic protection against income loss because of retirement or death. That's dumb. The charge has been made that the requirement of existing law that the receipts of the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, which are not currently needed for disbursements of the program, shall be invested in government securities, government IOUs, constitutes a misuse of the funds. So they're misusing our funds by making IOUs out of it. It's the people's IOU, and they're giving it to you in the form of benefit. So it's a misuse. They could have just gave us our money instead of have us go through a damn program with a name such as that, the old person's, survivors bond, whatever. That's nuts. Makes you think you got to be 98 years old to get it. That's nuts. And they know logically not many people will live that long, so we should be able to get our money now. That's an order and a demand, not a question, not a request. It's a demand, an order. I demand for you to go into my account, and you discharge this debt and mechanic your accounts. Deposit my asset into the liability books, man. Go get your off-record books too. Put them on the record. So it is suggested that this type of investment, so this is an investment, which means your security is an asset, you're a bank, you're a creditor, permits the government to use Social Security tax collections to finance ordinary government expenditures through your account, and that hence such collections will not be available to pay Social Security benefits in future years. That's why they're going to take away our benefits, because they're using it up more than is going in. So it is said that the securities represent IOUs. So IOUs are securities, bonded promissory notes are securities issued by the government, issued by one to itself or to other, and that the government will have to tax people a second time for Social Security to redeem these IOUs. So the government taxes people a second time for Social Security to redeem these IOUs to that serial number and bond number. So the investment of the assets of the trust fund, so the investment of the assets, the securities, the IOUs of the trust fund, which is your Social Security account, in federal obligations, which they call federal promissory notes, as required by law for legal tender, is not a misuse of the money contributed under the insurance program by covered employees, employers, and self-employed persons. These contributions are contributions, which mean we pitched into it. It's not just the insurance program, it's our SIN program trust, which is the SIN trust, the SIN trust, or the Social Insurance Number trust, which is separate from the general funds of the United States Treasury. So these contributions are permanently appropriated by law to the Federal Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, which is separate from the general funds of the United States Treasury. So they've been using our funds, not their own. That's nuts. Dang, they leeches on every level. Beasts, Behemoth, and Leviathan. Rebuke him in Yahusha's Gadol Shem. Hallelujah, Hua. Set fire on him. Alafabo. So all the assets of this fund, it's not really a vote. So the asset they're talking about is your credit, the tax, your credit in faith. So all the securities or assets or IOUs or bonded promissory notes of this fund are kept available and may be used only for the payment of the benefits and administrative expenses of the insurance program. So they get paid, you get paid, but they get the most for being a middleman, technically. So when the Treasury pays back money borrowed from the trust, the Treasury pays back money borrowed or currency borrowed from the trust fund, the public will not be taxed the second time for Social Security. So they got a liability book and an asset book. Think of it like that the whole time, that parallel. So if taxes are levied to redeem the securities, so if credit are taxed, or if credit have a lien on it, to like a withholding of funds to redeem the securities held by the trust fund, these taxes will not be levied for the purpose of paying Social Security benefits. So rather they will be levied for the purposes for which the money was originally borrowed, such as the costs arising out of World War II. So they've been using it since then and before. So taxes or credit would have to be raised to pay back the money borrowed to cover the costs of the war. So credit would have to be raised to pay back the money borrowed to cover the costs of the war, whether the obligations were held by the trust fund, your straw man, or by other investors like you. Whether the obligations were held by the trust fund or by other investors. So you can deposit the obligation in your trust fund account, escrow account, or sell it to the hands of other investors, people that will pay for it now. Without buyers of promissory notes and people who invest in promissory notes, the system would be obsolete. So it's the investors that keep it going. And each note you create, you're investing. It's an asset. You expect it to generate funds for the economy, like greenbacks. So the fact that the trust fund, rather than other possible investors, holds part of the federal debt does not change the purpose for which these taxes must be levied. So since all the Social Security contributions, credit, faith, are permanently appropriated, so it's permanent once they take out the funds, to the trust fund, they are not available to the Treasury to redeem federal obligations held by the trust fund. So they are not available to the Treasury to redeem federal obligations held by the trust fund. So we're not redeeming or trying to cash federal obligations held by the trust fund. So they are not available to the Treasury to redeem federal obligations held by the trust fund, promissory notes held by the trust funds. So the operation of old age and survivors insurance trust fund investment is similar to the investment of premiums collected by a private insurance company. A private company uses part of its current premium receipts for payments to beneficiaries and for operating expenses, because the straw man has operating expenses, operational expenditures. So the balance of its receipts is invested in income producing assets. So these receipts is like the birth certificate, a bond. So a receipt is a bond, it's a note. The balance of its receipts is invested in income producing assets, which creates accrued interest income, and your escrow accounts, which is OIDable, redeemable at face value. Such investments, such notes, are commonly limited by state law to the safest forms of investment, securitization, so that policyholders, insurance holders, bondholders will be assured like a bond, that their claims against the company will be satisfied when they become due. So government securities ordinarily represent a considerable part of these investments. Government securities ordinarily represent a considerable part of these investments. So securities ordinarily represent a considerable part of the money market, the bond market, stock market, investment market, the secondary market, the black market, the shadow market. So the purpose of investing these receipts, so they invest these bonds, these notes, these receipts, these certificates, these proofs of indebtedness, obligations, of course, to obtain earnings that will help meet the future costs of the insurance. So to obtain earnings, income, that will help meet the future costs of the insurance, to pay off the taxes, to pay off the insurance, to pay off all that from the escrow account, and thus reduce the premiums the policy holders would otherwise have to pay for their insurance, when you know how to monetize notes. So Social Security tax collections are handled in much the same way. Social Security collections, tax collection, that number means something. Investments of the trust fund, however, are limited by law to only one type, securities issued by the federal government. So there are two principal reasons for such a restriction. One is similar to the motivation of state legislation dealing with investments of private insurance companies. It is designed to ensure the safety of the fund. Securitization. Government securities constitute the safest form of investment. The second reason is that it keeps this publicly operated program from investing reserve funds in competitive business ventures. Such investments by the trust fund would be completely out of harmony with accepted concepts of the proper scope of a governmental activity. So the securities held by the trust fund, the credit held by the trust fund, perform the same function as those held by a private insurance company. So the number on the back is the private, the number on the front is the public. They can be readily converted into cash when needed to meet disbursements, and the earnings on these investments make possible a lower rate of contributions than would otherwise be required, lower forms of tax. So in investing its receipts in government securities, the trust fund as a separate entity, so your trust fund, your Social Security account, your Social Security trust fund is a separate entity. It's an entity. It is a lender. So your straw man is a creditor. And the United States is a borrower. Hallelujah. So the trustees of the fund, of your account, receive and hold. So trustees of the fund, of the account, receive and hold securities, notes, issued by the Treasury or you as evidence of these loans, as evidence of indebtedness. So these government obligations are assets of the fund. So these government obligations, are assets of the fund. It is assets of you, the lender, the creditor, your straw man, separate entity, and liabilities on the balance books of the United States Treasury, which must pay interest on the money borrowed, the promissory note, and repay the principal, the face par value, when the securities mature, whether it's on demand or at some certain time. So in other words, the Treasury borrows from a number of sources. So the Treasury is a borrower. They borrow off our faith and credit. We sustain the system and keep it up. We are the pillars to this earth. So it borrows from individuals, from you, Mutual savings banks like MMA accounts, money market accounts. Insurance companies like title companies and escrow companies, and various other classes of investors. So these peoples are investors, and they invest in the United States Treasury, paid to their order. And it borrows from the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund. And that I need to go into that actual law, because they're hiding what this really means. But they borrow from that account a lot. So the securities held by the fund are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. So securities held by the fund, the trust fund, are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. May this bring light and clarity to these money orders, bonds, notes, and acceptance for values. As are all public debt securities. Public debt, public liability are securities. Debt is money. It's a debit. So they are just as good as the public debt securities held by other investors, certificate holders, title holders. So the purchase of federal obligations, the purchase of obligations by the trust fund, by your routing and account number and serial number, from the Treasury, please deposit this security asset in the United States Treasury, does not increase the national debt. It may decrease it. The national debt is increased only when and to the extent to which the federal government's expenditures, which mean Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, the dollar bills we use, exceed receipts from taxes levied to meet those expenditures. When there's more Federal Reserve notes in circulation compared to the currency that you create, which increase the money supply according to the modern money mechanics. So your currency, your note, your IOU actually credits the United States. They're always borrowers. It's a liability in their books and an asset on yours. You see, and you can use this to discharge debt, which is paying. So the dollar is a liability and your currency is an asset. So the national debt is increased every time we use a dollar bill instead of creating currency, a note, a promise. So when such a deficit occurs, the Treasury must borrow sufficient money to meet the deficit by selling federal securities. So then they market and sell securities when they can't tap into this survivors fund or security trust fund off bat. So the volume of the securities sold, they sell a volume of these notes to meet a deficit, to pay a debt, is not increased by the purchase of such obligations by the trust fund. So the deficit is not increased, is decreased or stabilized or offset or set off or zeroed off. The balance book suggested, like playing balance, like an acrobat. So the purchase of federal obligations, notes by the trust fund in a period when the Treasury has no deficit to meet would result only in a direct or indirect transfer of federal debt, federal dollars, from other investors to the trust fund. So the total amount of the public debt would remain unchanged. So misleading the public, how the Social Security Trust Fund really works. This is by David C. John, September 2nd, 2004. So as political leaders debate how best to fix Social Security, many policymakers, policing makers, insurance companies are focusing on the wrong issue. Their sole concern seems to be the date when the Social Security Retirement and Survivors Trust Fund will run out of its paper assets, its notes. This is where it's been drawn from. So this mistaken emphasis misses the fundamental point about Social Security's problems. There is, So there is no cash like dollars in the Social Security Trust Fund, and there never has been any. So it's book entry. That's why people's getting in trouble, because it says a checking account. It is a trust account. So the Social Security Trust Fund is merely an accounting device. It's mechanics, modern money mechanics, accounting, filled with IOUs that future taxpayers must repay when you get dollars back. Once you get gold and silver back. So far too soon, payroll taxes will be insufficient to pay all of the promised benefits. So unless Congress promptly takes action, taxpayers will have to pump hundreds of billions of additional tax dollars into Social Security to pay the promised benefits. So the more we get benefits, the more indebted we become, because it's a public liability and is backed by the people's faith and credit. We're tapping into the mother juice. That's crazy. So how the trust fund operates. Workers pay their Social Security taxes, right? Pay their Social Security withheld funds, unclaimed funds and all that through their employers. That's who get them. Each employer, informant, periodically sends a lump sum payment to the United States Treasury that includes all of the income taxes and Social Security and Medicare payroll taxes paid by both the employer and the employee. So the employer is the one in charge, or their CFOs, their accountants, periodically send a lump sum payment to the United States Treasury that includes all of the income taxes or your credit, withheld funds, and Social Security and Medicare payroll taxes. So Medicare is another form of money too, paid by both the employer and its employees. So the Treasury, so this is pyramid scheme, a triad, a triple-headed authate. I rebuke in Yahusha's name. So the Treasury both receives the payroll taxes and income taxes that higher income retirees pay on their Social Security benefits, and income taxes, income credit, which is personal income that higher income retirees pay on their Social Security benefits, and pays monthly benefits on behalf of the Social Security Administration. So they pay monthly payments on behalf of the Social Security Administration. So the money stays in the Treasury's hands until it is either paid out as Social Security benefits or otherwise spent by the government. In fact, no money ever goes into the trust fund. Like when you go to the bank, they haul your tangible money somewhere else. They don't put it into a real account. That's a small bank. Think about it. For all the people they got in there, man, they ain't got no real account. Or you would have been going into your account like a locker, and you get your funds out. That's a withdrawal, and you deposit, which means put your stuff in. So there is no true account like a vault. Everything is virtual, digital, credit, imaginary, based on your belief, your conviction, the value you put in something. So the money stays in the Treasury's hands until it is either paid out as Social Security benefits or otherwise spent by the government. So in fact, no money ever goes into the trust fund. Instead, the trust fund balance is the result of two accounting entries by the Treasury. You hear? So first, the Treasury estimates how much of the aggregate tax receipts are Social Security taxes and credits the Social Security Trust Fund with that amount. So it credits the Social Security Trust Fund with that amount based on its taxes, its dues, credit. So first, the Treasury estimates how much of the aggregate tax receipts or tax forms or returns are Social Security taxes. and credits the Social Security Trust Fund with that amount. So then the Treasury subtracts the total amount paid in monthly Social Security benefits from the trust fund balance. No money actually changes hands. These are strictly accounting entries. Any money remaining in the trust fund is converted into special issue Treasury bonds, like the Federal Reserve checks. That's the bond, which are really nothing more than IOUs, promissory notes. In addition, the Treasury pays interest on the trust fund's balance, how much you owe, by crediting the trust fund, their social, their account, their EIN, with additional IOUs, which is credit, book entry. So these are also strictly accounting entries, and again, no money changes hands, as in gold and silver. Credit is money. Dollars are notes. Notes is money. So after crediting the trust fund with the proper amount in IOUs, so they must credit the amount to our account, the government spends the extra Social Security tax collections, so they take the surplus in the unclaimed funds, just like any other tax revenue. This is credit revenue, to finance anything, to fund anything, from aircraft carriers to education research, which you call municipal bonds sometimes. So we're funding this system from the bottom on up, back to the bottom. Do you see the motion and direction and flow of the system? Bottom on up, back to the bottom. And it's a pyramid scheme because the person at the top is really getting all the money, like it's going from the bottom straight to the top and then down. But really it's going from the top to the bottom. You see what I'm saying? It's going from the bottom, from the people to the top, and then back to the bottom. But the people's funds are going straight to the top, while all of the obligations are going straight to the bottom. And straight at the bottom, which is us, the base of the pyramid, are the ones that fund everything on top, throughout the whole, send a whole shockwave through the system. A whole shockwave. So at the end of 2002, the Social Security Trust Fund had a balance of $1.22 trillion. During 2003, the Treasury received $54 billion in Social Security taxes and paid out $406 billion in Social Security benefits. So do the math. So therefore, the trust fund received $138 billion in these special issue Treasury bonds. So the Treasury bonds, these special issue Treasury bonds, fund the account, resulting in a trust fund balance of $1.36 trillion at the end of 2003. And in 2002, it was $1.22 trillion. So these bonds is increasing the money supply. Obviously, it's affecting the asset side of the books. So why the Social Security Trust Fund differs from real trust funds? So private sector trust funds invest in real assets ranging from stocks and bonds to mortgages and other financial instruments. So however, the Social Security Trust Funds are only invested in a special type of treasury bond that can only be issued to and redeemed by the Social Security Administration, which means by your card. As the Congressional Research Service noted in a report on May 5th, 1998, this is the reference. So when the government issues a bond, when you issue a note to one of its own accounts, like your account, it hasn't purchased anything or established a claim against another entity or person. It is simply creating a form of IOU from one of its accounts to another. So IOUs transfer funds like an EFT. electronic funds transfer. So according to the Office of Management and Budget under the Clinton administration in 1999 in the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, these trust fund balances are available to finance future benefit payments and other trust fund expenditures. So, but only in a bookkeeping sense. So these funds are not set up to be a pension fund or to be pension funds like the funds of private pension plans. Those are plans and programs again. And they got so much funds, we got so much types of accounts, we got to know them all. So they do not consist of real economic assets that can be drawn down in the future to fund benefits. Instead, they are claims on the Treasury that when redeemed will have to be financed by raising taxes, borrowing from the public, or reducing benefits or other expenditures. Is bookkeeping. So in short, the Social Security Trust Fund is really only an accounting mechanism. The trust fund shows how much the government has borrowed from the Social Security. I want to get an audit on that, a FOIA request. But it does not provide any way to finance future benefits. The money to repay the IOUs will have to come from taxes that are being used today to pay for other government programs. For that reason, the most important date for Social Security is 2018, when taxpayers must begin to repay the IOUs, not 2042 when the trust fund is exhausted. So conclusion. Social Security's financial crisis will begin far sooner than many politicians claim. In less than 3 years, the first baby boomer will reach retirement age. Once that happens, Social Security and Medicare will be on a slippery slope towards insolvency, like it's happening now. While Social Security can continue to use its tax receipts returns to pay full retirement benefits until 2018. Congress cannot wait that long to act. Misleading the public into believing that Social Security is secure until 2042 or beyond will only make the impending crisis more difficult to avoid. Because the people don't know how to make promissory notes. They're using Federal Reserve dollars, which add on to debt, and then no funds are going into the account, is going out. Outflow and no income. Inflow. So conclusion. Social Security's financial crisis will begin far sooner than many politicians claim. So furthermore, huge impending deficits are only one of the problems facing Social Security. The sad reality is that millions of workers receive a dismissal rate of return on their Social Security retirement taxes, IRA. Making matters worse, the current program does not enable workers to build up investments like interest income. If you think about it, what account doesn't use your Social Security number? And cash savings to supplement their monthly security checks. So the debate about Social Security's future should be about how to improve each American's personal retirement security and how to enable each American to build a nest egg for the future. Otherwise, Americans or people will lose a real opportunity to improve the lives of future retirees, the veterans and all that. The best way to fix Social Security is to provide younger workers with the opportunity to invest part of their Social Security taxes and credit in personal retirement accounts. So this is a website you can check out. So also both Social Security and Medicare are pay as you go. So it's pay on demand, pay as you go. There is no money in the trust funds, only non-marketable, non-negotiable IOUs. It's a non-negotiable IOU, International Promissory Note. So the IOUs are non-marketable treasuries certificates. So they're like treasury certificates of indebtedness. More importantly, it is not debt. Yeah, according to their rule, it's an asset in their books. So there's no such thing as what they call debt, what we used to think is debt. So nothing's really bad. It is an obligation of the federal government if and only if there are no changes to the security system, the social security system, or a change to the money system, the currency system. But that's going to cause problems. Because if gold and silver do come back, we got to pay all those promises to pay. So there is a big difference between debt and future obligations. Future obligations ain't the same thing as now debt. And it is important to recognize that difference. The Cato Institute website that you cite does not differentiate between the two. The debt is a full faith and credit contract with the federal government upon which there is very little chance of it ever defaulting. The future obligations of Social Security and Medicare are whatever Congress say they are. So that is a big difference. So debt held by the public, 6.868 trillion. Intergovernmental Trust Fund debt, 4.278 trillion. Unfunded Social Security obligations, unfunded Social Security obligations, NPV, 4.3 trillion. Unfunded Medicare obligations, NPV, 53 trillion. So Congress can just wipe out the first two line items because they are debt. But if tomorrow Congress, which is a future obligation, passed a law which cut Medicare benefits, the unfunded Medicare obligation listed above would immediately be reduced. If tomorrow Congress passed a law which cut Medicare benefits. So some people say, so what if the so-called Social Security and Medicare surpluses, excess funds, are only IOUs? Well, here's why it does matter. Those IOUs will eventually have to be funded with more taxes, borrowing, debt, and or new money, which is inflation, to increase in the money supply. So since there is actually no money in those funds, in those accounts, so you focus on the idea that there are no funds in the Social Security Trust Fund. While this is correct, it only confuses the issue. You look at the Social Security Trust Fund and see a deficit of 2.4 trillion. You see an obligation of 2.4 trillion. Looking at it this way ignores the unfunded obligation issues, which arise after the trust fund is exhausted. Unfunded obligations. So I'll repeat it one more time for effect. The only difference between what occurs before the trust fund is depleted and after the trust fund is depleted is that there are no special treasuries to redeem before Social Security payments are made. So there are no special treasuries to redeem before Social Security payments are made. Before Social Security payments are made, there are no special treasuries to redeem. So simply put, the trust fund does not matter. The number that should be focused on is the 6.7 trillion funding shortfall that is predicted for the next 75 years. So in some ways, this expected shortfall is less scary than the 9.1 trillion public debt, because these obligations are amendable by act of Congress, which mean book entry. So in other ways, they are cause for more concern. So unlike the 9.1 trillion in public debt, that's a lot of money. The 6.7 trillion in Social Security obligations cannot be rolled over. If we make it to 2075, and if, as a percentage of gross domestic product, GDP, the public debt is at or below the level that it will be in 2011, I don't think that people will be all that worried about it. They will continue to roll it over as we do. Yes, there is a point where that debt is too high. Maybe Obama is going to get us there. But prior to the financial crisis, I did not believe we were there. Cry ISIS. That's crazy. Cry Yahuwah. No Gene ISIS over here. Barushit Abinitio. So in 2007, total governmental debt amounted to 60.8% of GDP. Wow. Total governmental debt. They're the ones who's using up all that funds. 60.8% of the gross domestic product, which means how much we owe without even taxes deducted yet. So the CIA ranked the total percentage as 22nd in the world. Wow. I take issue with the numbers that I'm giving. Public debt as a percentage of GDP would place us far lower, but I'm giving them anyway. So nearly all 90% of workers paid Social Security taxes. So how does the fund work? The trust fund is managed by the Department of the Treasury and overseen by a 6-member board. As payroll tax income comes into the Treasury each day, it is required by law to be invested in securities guaranteed as to both principal and interest by the federal government, by the United States government, the Treasury. All debt is up to them. So this used to be ordinary, marketable Treasury notes, whose value changed depending on demand in the secondary market, the secondary market, the bond market, and these are your payroll tax. So therefore, Treasury created special issue securities that guarantee amount of the principal and interest no matter when they are redeemed, regardless of market conditions. So let's continue on. So see also, do tax cuts create jobs? So unlike treasuries, they are only available to the trust funds. Benefits are paid out of the redemption of these special issue securities. Benefits are paid out of the redemption of these special issue securities. So once you sign the application to get benefits, and they issue those special securities, which are just tax receipts, credit receipts, and forms, they give you the benefits out of what they cashed. So they're cashing funds from your account and giving it to you in the package of benefit and privilege. So the payroll tax income itself. So payroll tax is income, interest income. Payroll tax goes into the general fund, which is the mutual fund of the people, the big trust account. So for this reason, some critics say the special issue securities are nothing more than IOUs drawn from the general fund, the mutual funds. So that's because future benefits will have to come from taxes that are being used today to pay for other government programs. So benefits will have to come from taxes that are being used as special securities today to pay. So it's a payment for other governmental programs and etc. So source, Heritage Foundation, misleading the public. That's crazy. So why is there a surplus? So the Social Security Act was signed into law by President D. Roosevelt. This guy that we seen right here. Hold on, let me fast forward all of this. Alright, we're near it. There we go. This man right here. So it was signed by law by President Franklin D. Roosevelt of August 14th, 1935. So that President Obama's budget director, Jack Lew, explained all this last February in USA Today. Social Security benefits, quote unquote, are entirely self-financing, self-funding, escrow accounts, automatically monetized, securitized, leveraged, hypothecated, rehypothecated, discounted, leveraged. They are paid for with payroll taxes collected from workers and their employers through their careers. So that is the public faith. That's the real meaning of that. So these taxes are placed in a trust fund dedicated to paying benefits owed to current and future beneficiaries, which is you, the benefiting party. Even though Social Security began collecting less in taxes than it paid in benefits in 2010. The trust fund will continue to accrue interest. So the trust fund accrues interest from your note and grow. And they said until 2025. And will have adequate resources, adequate credit to pay full benefits or to discharge debt for the next 26 years. But I don't know about that. So notice that Lew said nothing about raising the debt ceiling, which was already looming, and it shouldn't matter anyway because Social Security is entirely financing and off budget. There's no need for budget. So what could be clearer? So continuing on, let me see where we are on time. Alright. So the Social Security Trust Funds managed by the Department of the Treasury are the Old Age and Survivors Insurance, OASI, and Disability Insurance, DI, trust funds. So they're using our trust funds to give us these funds, but they're all coming from the same account, but different name. So since the beginning of the Social Security programming, all securities, which is technically your vessel, your note, held by the trust funds, so the trust fund holds securities, have been issued by the Federal Reserve Government, the federal government. That's why it's a Social Security account. So these are two general types of such securities: special issues, securities available only to the trust funds, and public issues, securities available to the public, marketable securities. So special issue securities is from the Social Security Fund, and marketable securities are called public issues. So special issues are probably private issues, and public issues are probably public issues is probably marketable securities. It's marketed to the people. So there's public and this is private. Non-marketable, marketable. Non-negotiable, negotiable. Alright, and I think that's another, whatchamacallit, the website to that. So structure of the social security numbers. A social security number, SSN, consists of 9 digits on the front. Get this thing up again. Let's get it up, baby. Okay, it got 9 numbers, something like this right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see these dashes? They all make a difference. So, for example, 3 fields separated by hyphens. The first 3-digit field is called the area number, which is A. The central 2-digit field is called the group number, GGG, which some people think is your race, and to discriminate and things like that. Who knows? Black, white, all that stuff. Area would be like an area code, zip code. Actually, the area number, the first 3 numbers, is connected to the zip code, and that right there connect with the state. So the final 4-digit field is called the serial number. So there's a serial number in the front of your card. So the process of assigning numbers has been changed at least twice. Until 1965, only half the group numbers were used. So before 1972, numbers were assigned by field offices. Since 1972, they have all been assigned by the central office. These are the people that's in charge of all that. So the order in which numbers were assigned was changed in the 1972 transition. There may have been other changes, but it's difficult to get information on how things used to be done. So area numbers. The area numbers are assigned to geographical locations. They were originally assigned the same way the zip codes were later assigned in area codes, which locks you into DC, Washington DC, on the Sea of Admiralty, thus turning your certificate into a vessel in the Sea of Commerce, and your straw man a vessel in the Sea of Commerce, like a ship. Your home, everything, your telephone in the Sea of Commerce. So most area codes or area numbers were assigned according to the state or territorial boundaries. So this is for identification. A number on the front is not an account number. It's simply strictly for identifying. It's the highest form of ID. So most area numbers were assigned according to state or territorial boundaries. DC. Although the series 700 through 729 were assigned to railroad workers, and look at, they say series here, like a serial number. Series means sequential numbers in a certain sequence, like cracking a code or a lock to a vault. Was assigned to railroad workers regardless of location. This series of area numbers was discontinued in 1964 and is no longer used for new Social Security numbers. So area numbers assigned prior to 1972 are an indication of the SSA office, which originally issued the SSN. So since 1972, the area number in SSNs corresponds to the residence address given by the applicant or informant on the application for the SSN, the creating of the bond, the security agreement. So in many regions, the original range of numbers, area numbers, assignments were eventually exhausted as population grew. The original area number assignments have been augmented as required. So all of the original assignments were less than 585, except for the 700 to 729 railroad worker series mentioned above. Area numbers of 000 have never been issued. So as you can tell, these are the numbers for some states. Mine is 024, which is Massachusetts, somewhere out there. MA. Alright. So, let me see. So this would be, oh, okay, so, okay, I see. So 010 to 034, so right here would be mine. So the number comes first, then the state. So that would identify the state I'm from and all that stuff. So group numbers. So the group number is not related to geography, but rather to the order in which SSNs are issued for a particular area of people. Before 1965, only half the group numbers were issued or was used. Odd numbers were used below 10 and even numbers were used above 9. In 1965, the system was changed so assignments continued with the low even numbers and the high odd numbers. So group numbers for each area number are assigned in the following order. Odd numbers 01 to 07. Even numbers 10 to 98. Even numbers 02 to 08, and odd numbers from 11 to 98. So group codes of 00 aren't assigned. So in each region, all possible area numbers are assigned with each group number before using the next group number. So this means the group numbers can be used to find a chronological ordering of SSNs within a region for statistics and discrimination when they're trying to group us up. So when new group numbers are assigned to a state, the old numbers are usually used up first. So SSA publishes a list every month of the highest group assigned for each SSN area. For example, if the highest group assigned for area 999 is 72, or for that part of the state, and it's 72, then we would know that the number 999, that's 04, that's 1234, is an invalid number because even groups under 9 have not yet been assigned. So serial numbers. Serial numbers are assigned in chronological order within each area and group number as the applications are processed. Serial number is never used. 000 is never used. Before 1965, when number assignment was transferred from field offices to the central office, serial numbers may have been assigned in a strange order. So some sources claim that 2000 and 7000 series numbers were assigned out of order. That no longer seems to be the case. Currently, the serial numbers are assigned in strictly increasing order with each area and group combination. So invalid social security numbers. So any SSN conforming to one of the following criteria is an invalid number. So any fields all zeros, no field of zeros ever assigned. First 3 digits above 740. So a pamphlet entitled the Social Security Number, Publication or Public Law Number 05-10633 provides an explanation of the SSN structure and the method of assigning and validating Social Security numbers. So this description of the structure of the Social Security number is based on messages written by Jerry Crow and Barbara Burnett. The information has been verified by its correspondence to the SSA's Program Operations Manual, POMS, Part 1, Chapter 1, Subchapter 1, which can be found at the Federal Depository Libraries, SSA Public Law Number 68-010021. So before we continue on, hold on one second. Alright, we got a couple of good things to look through. So alright, before we continue on with that, I wanna go ahead and jump on this real quick. Where is it? This is very important as well. This is gonna go with it. So this I found from the Secret Service website on the Federal Reserve page or whatever, pertaining to what money is, and it's called the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Remember, this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Do what you want to do at your own risk. Up, there go serial numbers, account numbers. Let's go down. Those are all notes. These are the things we're going to be learning. You can pause and check them out if you want. And we're going to be checking out the serial numbers on currency notes and this first part right here. So it says United States paper currency in overview. So the Federal Reserve System, commonly referred to as the Fed, operates as the nation's central bank and comprises a board of governors, 12 regional. So it got board of governors, we heard 6. 12 regional Federal Reserve banks located in major financial centers. 12 regional banks that connect to the number on the back. And several thousand commercial banks that are members of the system. One of the important functions of the Federal Reserve System is to ensure that adequate amounts of currency, notes, and coin are in circulation. And that's why we're in a lot of debt, because people don't know how to create notes. So depository institutions which are involved with your deposits, such as commercial banks, FDIC approved, savings banks, savings and loan associations, and credit unions buy currency, they buy notes from Federal Reserve banks to meet customer demand. The value of that cash is charged to their accounts. It's charged to our accounts. And when the need for currency and coin declines, these institutions return excess cash, excess funds, or the tax to a Federal Reserve bank, like the Security Trust Fund, which in turn credits the appropriate account, whether it's marketable security or private security. So the establishment of the Federal Reserve System in 1913 was a culmination of past efforts to institute centralized banking, New World Order, and it worked, to institute centralized banking operations in the United States. That's why they're international, intercorporate. As a result, the Federal Reserve Act of December 23, 1913 established the Federal Reserve System and authorized the printing of Federal Reserve notes. So that was illegal. We didn't consent to that. Since these notes were, well, that's why it's de facto, not factual. So there's this forged history. So since these notes were first issued in 1914, they have these notes. They have always been produced by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, which understands the whole concept of that dollar. But they don't tell you the little secrets like the Twin Towers on the $20 bill folded up and all that. They got a lot of secrets and curses and codes in that bill. So the 12 Federal Reserve banks and their code letters are, there we go. So now let's look at one of the accounts, see what we got. Alright, hold on 1 second. Alright, that's a constellation and all that stuff. That's for a whole different video. That's wild. This is supposed to be an account. I got a picture of it somewhere. Alright, I think this is fine. So right here, that letter right here, which is like that connects to one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks. And these are it right here. So if you want to pause and look at your Social Security real quick, or if you know yours, look at it and let's continue. Alright, so we're going to skip around. I'll read the rest of the stuff later, but this goes into it. So like demand notes, like money orders, a demand, deposit, account. So demand notes represented the first general circulation of paper currency, paper money, paper currency, by the United States government, issued in 1861 and 1862 as a way to pay a means of exchange for goods and services related to Civil War costs though. The notes were essentially government IOUs, like people IOUs, and were called demand notes, like money orders and bills of exchange. On demand, payable on demand, on site, on draft, on presentation. So because they were payable on demand in coin and bullion, gold and silver, treasury facilities, at certain treasury facilities, they were also popularly known as greenbacks because of the color ink used to print the backs. Printed by a private company, which they cannot disclose to you. Demand notes were sent to the treasury in sheets of 4 each, so money orders were always sent to the treasury, where dozens of clerks and laborers signed, separated, and trimmed them by hand before issuance. The notes did not have a treasury seal, nor were they signed by the actual treasury officials listed on the note. So they're telling you the truth. But rather by designated treasury employees, says robo-signed. Demand notes were supplanted by United States notes in 1862. So United States notes, also known as legal tender notes, which is your deposit, your notes, were the first widespread United States paper currency. Initially placed into circulation in 1862, floating bonds. They were deemed legal tender, payable for public and private debts. So United States notes were a mainstay of the nation's currency system well into the 20th century, and having greenbacks like demand notes. So demand notes, money orders, were looked at as greenbacks, like dollar bills. They were also called greenbacks, making this slang term for government currency. a permanent part of modern culture. Hallelujah, Huanu. So outstanding United States notes, Federal Reserve notes, federal obligations, United States obligations, debt, which were issued in denominations of $1 debt, $2 debt, $5 promissory note, $10 outstanding United States notes, $20 greenback, $50 promissory bond, $100 note, $500 note, $1,000 note, are redeemable at face value by the Department of the Treasury. So you will have to go to the Department of Treasury to redeem it at par value. And they still do this stuff today. So fractional currency. So in the early stages of the Civil War period, the public chose to hold on to coins because of their value as precious metal. The result was a shortage of available coins for circulation, which means they couldn't have elastic currency. They couldn't spend what they want because there was a certain amount of gold in circulation, so they had to plot and scheme to remove it. So to remedy the solution to ruin our lives, the Congressional Act of July 17, 1862, which is in 12 Statute at Large, Section 592, authorized the use of postage stamps and other stamps for paying debts to the United States government, money orders and stamps, and write in your signature through the stamp to become postmaster. This created a shortage of postage stamps. To fix this new problem, notes in denominations of less than $1 were issued, although these were never authorized by legislation. Such notes were known as postage notes or postage currency because their designs were taken from the existing postage stamps. A stamp. You wonder why they say you need a stamp on your mail. So later issues of notes in denominations under $1 had designs more in keeping with the appearance of currency notes. These issues were known as fractional currency and were authorized under the Congressional Act of March 3rd, 1863, 12 Stat 709. So Congress is behind all of this. And they're probably infiltrated by pirates though. So in all, there were 5 issues of fractional currency of varying denominations from 3 cents to 50 cents authorized between 1862 and 1876, and that's why we still have silver and bronze still in circulation, which is dimes, quarters, nickels, and pennies. So nickels, dimes, quarters, and double quarters. Dates of issue. These are the times they issued. So I'm not going to go into the gold certificates in this video yet. I'm going to do that in part 2. I want to go down to hold on, let me see. So like national bank notes, prior to the issue of currency notes by the government, private banks like us issued their own paper currency. The holders of these private bank notes were generally charged exchange rates when spending or redeeming the notes in much the same manner as notes of various countries are exchanged today. So you're looking to exchange the currency from one to the other form. So the exchange rates as well as acceptance of the individual bank note issues varied widely from bank to bank across the United States. So acceptance of the individual bank note. So as part of the financing, loaning, crediting, measures aimed at paying the costs of the Civil War, Congress instituted legislation that reformed the nation's banking system, and they did. Consequently, banks were required to purchase and place United States government securities on deposit with the government in order to be carded as national banks by the comptroller of the currency. So additionally, the national banks could then issue new standardized notes that would be accepted and recognized by national banks across the country. Cool. So national bank notes were issued between 1863 and 1938. Their design was the same regardless of place of issue, differing only in the name, location, and Carter number, ABA number of the bank. And this is how they all looked. National currency. I gotta do some more research on that. I want to see how that looked. So we'll come back to the Federal Reserve notes, because my battery is about to die and I want to be able to show you guys something else. So I got all types of issues of notes. Notes of currency. Reptilians. They go into detail about things here, man. I'm excited to do part 2 to this video because I know this has been pretty informative, you know, and I think it may help understand what these bonds and promissory notes truly are. So series year. The procedure for changing the series date has changed a number of times. This is a series year right here. You see it right here? Oop. This right here. Series 2001. So currently a new series will result from a change in the Secretary of the Treasury. A new series results in a change in the Secretary of the Treasury. The Treasurer of the United States. So Secretary of the Treasury is the Treasurer of the United States. Obligations. And or a change to the note's appearance, such as a new currency design. After the Secretary of the Treasury changes, a new series year is adopted. For example, 1999, 2001 right here. When the Treasurer of the United States changes, a suffix letter is added to the current series year, for example, 1999A. So additional changes of the Treasurer, whereby the Secretary of the Treasury remains the same, results in subsequent letter changes to the current series year. For example, 1999B, 1999C, 1999D, EFG, HIJK, LMNOP, QRSTUV, WXYNZ, which is enchantment and witchcraft anyway, because some of those letters don't exist. But that's what they use to let you know when there's been some change in the treasurer or in the treasury or something in the system. So serial numbers on currency notes, which is this number right here, like on the back of your Social Security. So the United States currency numbering system was adopted in 1928. A unique serial number for each note. So you call your birth certificate serial number a note, a bond number, a note. So a unique serial number or unique identifying account for each note. Printed prior to 1996, consists of a capital letter used before and after an 8-digit serial number, which is a note number, an insurance number. So the prefix letter, they call these letters prefix, corresponds to the Federal Reserve Bank letter designation, one of the 12 like we've seen before in the beginning of this book. For example, the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond is designated as the E Bank. The E Bank, that's the routing number. That's the first run of notes of any denomination for this bank will be numbered E00, like a social security or the number on the back, 000001A. The second run will be numbered E000001B, and succeeding runs or sequences will proceed through the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So currency printed since 1996 has an additional prefix letter in the serial number. So the first letter of the prefix designates the series. For example, so the letter A designates series 1996. You see, A, and it's so AA. So A would represent the series. And it would represent 1996, like 1996A. So the second letter designates the Federal Reserve Bank to which the notes are issued. So the second letter is supposed to connect with the Federal Reserve Bank. So the United States Treasury seal on okay, we don't really need to go into all that. We'll finish off the rest next time. The Department of the United States Treasury. Now we can get more understanding about, okay, well, this ain't it. Alright, like I said, the routing number will go here. This will be the letter converted. This will be the account number, which you will say SSN number, etc. And the serial number will go on the end, like you see right here. The picture that we began with. Now you got a greater understanding of what all this stuff means. And this is what they call paper money, a note, a bond, and they stamp it with the seal, with the treasury seal, or from a bank on the back after you endorse it. So serial number, etc., you know, series, year, or date printed, owner, just like you would do with a check. Your name go on the top, your bank will go right here. And I believe this is the true way to create the money orders and checks and bonds with the number on the back. But I'm still studying this, and this is not legal advice or tax advice or anything as such, you know, but I think we are onto something. So when we continue on in part number 2, we'll finish off what we're reading before, and then we'll finish reading this off too from where we left off. So I truly hope you guys have a wonderful day, and spread the word, y'all.